Hi, I am Morgan and my partner is Indiana. For our design project, we decided to pick the book The Rainbow Fish, which is a book that discusses how sharing is important and how making friends is also important. As a pair for our diorama, we decided upon the page where the rainbow fish gives his very first scale away to the other small fish, which fulfills the rainbow fish with such joy and happiness afterwards as he feels fulfilled in this moment. And now my partner Indiana will talk about the planning and all the materials that we used during this process.
Hello everyone, I will be talking about the planning stage of the diorama. As you can see from the very rough blueprint that we created, we were looking at how we were going to implement the systems and where they were going to be on the box, more specifically how we were going to wrap the wire for the electrical circuit around the box. We originally planned for it to be on top, but we ended up going with that later on in the plan. We also looked at how we were going to conceal the systems so they weren't visible to the naked eye. But that's really all we looked at and thought about when we originally started planning for the diorama. So, what did the planning incorporate? We used Blue Hat process when originally drawing up our 3D design for our plan. We thought about what we needed, we thought about how the circuits were going to be incorporated, and we kind of just organized our thinking accordingly. We had many thoughts about how we were going to make things work and what thinking needed to happen for the plan to run smoothly. Morgan and I also used white hat facts when developing our plan in the beginning. We definitely thought about what we had already learnt and what we already knew from the course and the class. Um, we definitely looked at the amount of materials that we had to use, which was definitely one of our concerns, given that we didn't have much wire to use for such a big diorama, which I can talk about a little bit later. We also looked at how the systems would work, simultaneously, and how we were going to get the pneumatic system to make the electric circuit work. So yeah, we definitely thought about what we needed to know and what we already knew. Next, we'll be looking at the materials, joining and cutting techniques that are used to create the systems. For materials, me and Morgan are pretty crafty people, and we've already got quite a big craft supply stash at our homes, so we didn't really have to go out and buy anything. A lot of it was just already what we had. We used lots of colored paper for the visual aspects of the diorama, and I found a cardboard box in the rubbish room of my apartment complex, so we had a recycled cardboard box, which was perfectly sized. We originally were going to use the plastic packaging from the paper, like the colored paper, to give like a water-like effect to the front of the diorama, but we decided against it because we wanted to have access to the front of the box. Morgan then later on put black fabric scraps around the outside of the box to make it look more finished and more polished. The systems that we used were pneumatic and the electrical circuit, obviously. And then the joining and cutting techniques that we used were just lots of hot glue, craft glue, most noticeably. The most unique joining technique I used was my kneadable eraser. I didn't want the battery to be adhered to the diorama completely, and I didn't want to have to stick it down with sticky tape, so I used my kneadable eraser to tack it down, and then we just used an X-Acto knife and scissors. Here is a photo of the finished diorama, and up next you'll see a video of it in action. So how does it work? I glued the pneumatic system straight into the box because I just thought about the fact that this is probably going to be one of the most high-touched areas on the diorama, so I just wanted it to be sturdy. I also taped up the tube so the pneumatic system could be shorter, and then the small fish is actually glued to the output side of the pneumatic system. Then the wires are also glued to the back of the small fish. So when they connect in the middle, the light bulb goes off. So what happened? This is probably the one area that me and Morgan had trouble with. I had to rethink our planning. I originally was going to feed the wire through the small hole in the side of the box to wrap around the top of it or the back of it, and we just did not have enough material to make that work. So I ended up creating a small door in the back side of the box and creating a smaller box for the battery to go into, so we could still have access to it, but it was all inside the box. So yeah, that was our quick thinking for how to fix that problem. But then we ran into more cautious problems and safety issues with having exposed wires in the backside of the box. So going forward and fixing that problem, we obviously used the box, and then we used more paper to conceal the wires, and we used double-sided tape so we could lift up the paper to access the wires if we needed to, but also to try to conceal them as much as we could. And here are some photos from that process of figuring out how we were going to cover the wires. And then there's more photos of Morgan covering the outside of the box with black fabric later after our presentation.
During the making of our diorama, we carefully considered how sustainable it would be and how the children would interact with it. So we made our diorama quite versatile and easy to use so that the educators and the children are able to demonstrate how the two systems work and interact together, as well as lending a visual aid to the book itself. We did come to the conclusion that our diorama connects very well with outcome 2 of the EYLF, children are connected and contribute to their world. This is children being aware of being fair for each other in terms of sharing, having a go at the diorama, using the pneumatic system, and it also allows them to feel connected within a group setting. If they're sitting down having a group time together and they get out the diorama, then they feel connected together as they can all pitch in and enjoy it. We also linked it to outcome 3, children have a strong sense of well-being, and we discussed this as how they would use their body movements to coincide with making the systems work, and along with using their sensory perceptions, physical capabilities, and integrating their fine motor skills for actually pushing in the syringe to make the systems work. Then lastly, we did link it to children are confident and involved learners, which is outcome 4. And this is how children are creative. They might have another idea to add on to the diorama. They might want to use the diorama to express themselves or help show that scene of the book in a very particular way, along with helping the children to learn via having this visible interactive resource for them, helping them cement their learning and thinking together. There's only a few safety considerations that we have decided upon. That is, only do this with the age 4 to 5, as it is catered for them to interact with, probably no younger, just because they'll find it hard to push in the syringe to make the pneumatic system work, as it is a bit tough to push in. The other thing would be just having the exposed wires behind the fish, as it was a bit difficult to conceal them properly, so all we have done is painted them so then they blend in with the blue background, and just making sure that there is an educator supervising during the time that it is being used, just so the kids don't rip out the light bulb or pull out the wires. And that's about it. Thank you for listening to our video.